In April 2019, a man sat inside a titanium sphere the size of a large closet, falling through absolute darkness. He had been falling for nearly 4 hours. Outside the viewport, nothing. No light, no reference point, no sound except the occasional ping of the sonar and the faint creak of metal adjusting to pressure that no human-rated vessel had ever been asked to endure. At approximately 10,928 meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the sphere touched sediment that had been accumulating, undisturbed, for millions of years. Victor Vescovo turned on the external cameras, swept the lights across the pale, lunar floor of the Challenger Deep, and saw a plastic bag. A candy wrapper drifted nearby. The deepest point on Earth had been reached by exactly 3 people in all of human history before that moment. Our garbage got there without any trouble at all. This is not a story about a daredevil. It is not a story about a billionaire buying thrills. It is the story of a man who applied the logic of a leveraged buyout to the last unexplored places on his own planet, and what he found when he arrived. Victor Lance Vescovo was born in 1966 in Dallas, Texas. Nothing about his early trajectory suggests a future explorer. He went to Stanford, studied economics. He went to MIT's Sloan School, studied management. He went to Harvard, studied government. 3 elite degrees, all of them oriented toward the same destination: institutional power wielded quietly from behind a desk. He joined the United States Navy Reserve, where he served for approximately 20 years and reached the rank of commander. He has said in interviews that his service included intelligence work in Kosovo and Colombia, the kind of assignment that leaves no public paper trail, only a security clearance and a particular steadiness under pressure. He does not elaborate. The specifics remain classified, and Vescovo does not perform the veteran role for cameras. After the Navy, he co-founded Insight Equity, a private equity firm in Dallas focused on middle-market leveraged buyouts. The firm manages assets in the range of several $billion. This is where the money came from. Not inherited wealth, not tech founder lottery winnings, but the slow, methodical accumulation of capital through the disciplined purchase and restructuring of undervalued companies. If you have never met a man like this, understand. The vocabulary is risk assessment, capital allocation, execution timeline, contingency planning. It is the vocabulary of someone who treats the world as a series of problems that can be solved if you assemble the right team and accept the right level of financial exposure. And somewhere in his 40s, Victor Vescovo looked at the planet and decided he had not seen enough of it. He started with mountains, the 7 summits, the highest peak on every continent: Everest, Denali, Kilimanjaro, Aconcagua, Elbrus, Vinson in Antarctica, Carsten's Pyramid in Oceania. He summited Everest in April 2017. He skied to the North Pole and the South Pole, completing what mountaineers call the Explorer's Grand Slam. He did all of this in roughly the same period most people his age are refinancing a mortgage. But the mountains were not enough. The mountains had been climbed. Thousands of people had stood on Everest. The poles had been reached over a century ago. Vescovo was looking at what remained, genuinely remained, unexplored on this planet. And the answer was beneath the ocean. Here is the fact that reframes everything. Before the 5 Deeps expedition, no human being had ever visited the deepest point of the Southern Ocean. No human being had ever visited the deepest point of the Indian Ocean. No human being had ever visited the deepest point of the Arctic Ocean. 3 of the 5 oceans on Earth had floors that no person had ever seen. More humans had walked on the moon, and no submersible existed that could get there. So Vescovo built one. The DSV limiting factor was constructed by Triton submarines of Vero Beach, Florida, over approximately 3 to 4 years. Its designer was naval architect John Ramsey. Its builder was Patrick Leahy, president of Triton, who later described it as the most difficult engineering project the company had ever attempted. The pressure hull is forged from grade 5 titanium, machined to approximately 90 millimeters thick. The internal diameter is roughly 5 meters. Two adults seated side by side, knees nearly touching the viewport housing, instrument panels covering every available surface. The lighting inside is the blue-green glow of screens. The viewports are cone-shaped acrylic, rated to full ocean depth. If you want to understand what full ocean depth means in physical terms, consider this. At the bottom of the Challenger Deep, water pressure reaches approximately 1,100 atmospheres, over 16,000 pounds per square inch. The water column above the submersible weighs the equivalent of 50 jumbo jets stacked on a single human body. Expedition crews have a tradition. They attach a standard styrofoam cup to the exterior of the submersible before a dive. When it returns from full ocean depth, the cup has been compressed to roughly the size of a thimble. The foam cells simply collapse. That is what the titanium sphere is resisting, continuously, at depth. The limiting factor was not a stunt vehicle. It became the first submersible in history to receive commercial safety certification from DNVGL, a third-party marine classification society, for unlimited dives to full ocean depth. No previous deep submersible had achieved this. The Trieste was a one-mission military project in 1960. James Cameron's Deep-Sea Challenger in 2012 was a bespoke craft that made a single dive and was subsequently damaged during recovery. Vescovo's machine was engineered to go back again and again, and it did. He purchased a former U.S. Navy surveillance ship, approximately 68 meters long, refitted it as a support vessel, and named it DSSV Pressure Drop. Not a super yacht. A tool, workmanlike, industrial, purposeful. An A-frame crane at the stern for launching and recovering the submersible over open ocean. The Five Deeps expedition began in December 2018. Atlantic Ocean first. Vescovo descended to approximately 8,376 meters in the Brownson Deep of the Puerto Rico Trench, the deepest solo dive in the Atlantic ever recorded. Then the Southern Ocean in February 2019, the South Sandwich Trench, approximately 7,534 meters, a place subsequently named the Factorian Deep, after the submersible. No human had ever been there. Then, the Indian Ocean in April 2019, the Java Trench, approximately 7,192 meters, resolving a long-standing scientific debate about whether the Java Trench or the Diamantina Fracture Zone held the Indian Ocean depth record. No human had ever been there either. And then the Pacific. You need to understand the descent. 4 hours. The sunlight fades within the first 200 meters. By 1,000 meters, total darkness, except for bioluminescence. Organisms triggering against the hull, producing brief flashes of cold light in the black water. By 5,000 meters, nothing. No light, no life visible. Just the faint sounds of the submersible systems and the slow tick of the depth gauge. 4 hours of falling through the largest volume of water on Earth, alone inside a sphere the size of a closet. On April 28, 2019, at approximately 10,128 meters, Victor Vescovo touched the floor of the Challenger Deep. By the most rigorous modern instrumentation available, multiple redundant pressure sensors cross-referenced with multi-beam sonar mapping. This was measured as approximately 11 meters deeper than Cameron's 2012 dive. the deepest crewed dive in human history by verified modern measurement. And there, on sediment that predates every civilization, every human migration, every ice age. A plastic bag. Candy wrappers. Visual confirmation of what researchers had already detected in sediment samples. Anthropogenic contamination at the most remote point on Earth. Vescovo described the moment in a BBC interview with characteristic restraint. Deeply troubling, he said, demonstrating that human activity had impacted even the most remote environment on the planet. He did not linger on the emotion. He is not a man who lingers. The expedition also collected what the cameras could not: biological samples that would yield at least 3 previously unknown species of marine organisms, including amphipods, translucent, ghostly creatures that exist in total darkness, under pressures that would instantly kill any surface organism. Life does not respect our assumptions about what is possible. Dr. Alan Jameson of Newcastle University, the expedition's chief scientist, would subsequently publish multiple peer-reviewed papers from the data collected. He noted that the ability to make repeated dives to Hadal depths within a single expedition, something only the limiting factor had ever enabled, transformed the science of what was possible at extreme depth. The fifth and final deep was the Arctic, the Molloy Deep in the Fram Strait, northwest of Svalbard. August 2019, approximately 5,551 meters. The first crewed dive to the deepest point of the Arctic Ocean. With that, Victor Vescovo became the first human being in history to reach the deepest point of all 5 of the world's oceans. Combined with his 7 summits and both poles, no other person has ever covered the full vertical range of this planet, from approximately 8,849 meters above sea level on the summit of Everest to approximately 10,928 meters below the surface of the Pacific, a span of roughly 20,000 meters, under his own initiative, funded from his own pocket. The expedition cost approximately $48 million of Vescovo's personal money. That figure is self-reported. No independent audit exists. But even if the true number is somewhat different, the scale is clear. This was not a government program. No congressional appropriation, no multinational space agency equivalent for the ocean. One man decided the deep ocean should be systematically explored, calculated the cost, wrote the check, assembled the team, managed the risk, and executed the plan on a timeline that would have taken a government agency a decade of committee hearings to approve. There is something both admirable and unsettling about this. The paradigm shift from state-funded to privately funded deep exploration happened almost without public awareness. The most capable deep ocean vehicle in human history was built because one wealthy man decided it should exist. The scientific community largely welcomed the partnership. Jameson's peer-reviewed publications gave the expedition legitimate scientific output. But the structural question remains: should the exploration of the last frontier on Earth depend on whether a single private citizen feels like funding it? Vescovo does not appear to lose sleep over the philosophical dimensions. In a Bloomberg interview, he stated plainly, waiting for government programs to fund deep ocean exploration would mean waiting indefinitely. Private capital moves faster if the individual accepts the financial risk. He kept diving after the 5 deeps. The Ring of Fire expedition in 2020 and 2021 targeted deep trenches in the Western Pacific. In 2020, he piloted the Limiting Factor, carrying former astronaut Kathy Sullivan to the bottom of the Challenger Deep, making Sullivan the first woman to reach the deepest point of the ocean and the first person in history to both walk in space and touch the ocean floor. The vehicle Vescovo built was enabling achievements beyond his own. And then something happened that tells you everything about who this man is. He sold it. The limiting factor and the pressure drop, the submersible and the ship, the entire deep ocean exploration system he had spent years and tens of millions of dollars building, sold to Inkfish, a deep-sea research company, reportedly to continue scientific operations. Vescovo did not put the submersible in a museum. He did not keep it as a trophy. He treated it like a piece of equipment that had served its operational purpose in his hands and could serve further purpose in someone else's. The machine outlived the mission. It is still diving. Vescovo went back to Dallas, back to Insight Equity, back to leveraged buyouts and middle market restructuring. If you walked into his office, nothing about the space would tell you that the man behind the desk has been to the bottom of every ocean on Earth. He does not perform the explorer role. No theatrical self-presentation, no documentary host persona. He speaks in measured, analytical sentences and wears a polo shirt. Consider the asymmetry. James Cameron dove to the Mariana Trench once in 2012, and the entire world knew, because Cameron was already the most commercially successful filmmaker alive, and National Geographic built a media campaign around the event. Victor Vescovo went deeper, did it in all 5 oceans, built a superior vehicle, enabled the first commercially certified deep ocean exploration platform in history, took scientists along, discovered new species, and most people cannot name him. The coverage existed. BBC, Bloomberg, a Discovery Channel documentary produced by Atlantic Productions. But it never broke through into cultural awareness the way Cameron's single dive did. This tells you something about fame and something about Vescovo simultaneously. Fame requires performance. It requires a public persona that invites identification. Vescovo offers neither. He is precise, private, and uninterested in being known. The work was the point. But here is what I want you to carry from this. The next time you use a plastic bag, the next time you see one tangled in a fence or skidding across a parking lot, know that one reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench before all but 4 human beings in history managed to get there. Know that a man spent $48 million and 4 years of his life to build a machine that could survive pressures no commercial vehicle had ever withstood, descended through 4 hours of absolute darkness, touched the oldest sediment on Earth, and found us already there. Not our best selves, not our science or our art or our aspiration, our waste. A bag and some wrappers settling quietly through 11 kilometers of black water, coming to rest on a floor no human eye had ever seen. Victor Vescovo saw it. He noted it. He came back up. He is in Dallas right now, probably looking at a spreadsheet. The limiting factor is somewhere in the Pacific, carrying someone else to the bottom of the world. The plastic bag is still there.